If I hear people are the weakest link in cybersecurity one more time, I may scream so much that my head actually genuinely explodes. Fighting this narrative has been a theme of my work for over 10 years. I first gave a keynote dedicated entirely to this topic in 2017, and since then I have been invited to speak to world leaders at the World Government Summit, to NATO, to dozens of national banks to speak about the fact that we should not be saying people are the weakest link in cybersecurity. And let's not forget, this was also a theme of my keynote at the prestigious RSA conference in San Francisco in 2020. And now I'm bringing it to YouTube, you lucky, lucky ducks. So here is the second episode of my series on cybersecurity myths, lies, and half-truths. First up, let me say I understand why some cybersecurity professionals choose to say that people are the weakest link. All of the statistics show that people are compromised more than purely technology when it comes to cyber attacks. Of course, the Verizon data breach investigation report this year said that the human element is a key driver in 82% of breaches. Statistics always show that phishing is a very common vector in most attacks. So people are central to cybersecurity, but that doesn't mean we should be saying people are the weakest link, and I'm going to be explaining why we shouldn't be saying that. We aren't the weakest link, we are simply the most common target. In this video, I am going to cover 5 main reasons why it is wrong and why it is damaging to say people are the weakest link in cybersecurity. Number 1, why we shouldn't be saying people are the weakest link. It is just so superficial. People aren't the weakest link in cybersecurity. We are really the only link. Machines do not attack machines by themselves, despite what we might see in science fiction, and technology doesn't run without people building and operating it. If we think about the life cycle of technology and information, it is people who are central at every stage. People who design, develop, use, abuse, destroy technology and information. It is extremely rare, arguably impossible, for us to have a data breach that doesn't involve human beings in some way or another. So when we call people the weakest link, it's such a redundant thing to say because we are the link. Number 2, this negative narrative overlooks the many times when people are in fact the strongest link in cybersecurity. If someone clicks a link in a phishing email, it is just so easy for us cybersecurity professionals to call them the weakest link. But the hundreds of times that they didn't click a link in a phishing email, or they didn't download an attachment, or they didn't share their passwords, oh no, we're just going to ignore that. Now, of course, in cybersecurity, we have to look for that one time that things go wrong. That's what we're working with. That's what we're focused on. But it can skew our judgment. It can skew our perceptions. And it means that we look at the one time that something goes wrong, we ignore the hundreds of times where things went right, and then we unfairly call people the weakest link. Number 3. When we call people the weakest link, we are victim blaming. We often hear this phrase in relation to somebody having clicked a link in a phishing email or being scammed. The truth is that we are all susceptible to social engineering, as I've covered in other videos. This is because social engineering exploits human bias, subverts our trust, and because we have seen social engineering become more convincing. Blaming someone for being a victim of a crime is not fair. And often when we victim blame, we are doing that even subconsciously to try and make ourselves feel better, to convince ourselves that it would never happen to us, when in reality, the right fish, the right scam at the wrong time can catch any of us. My fourth reason why it is damaging to call people the weakest link in cybersecurity is that it alienates people. It actually undermines them and it pushes them further away from engaging in cybersecurity. When we tell people that they are the weakest link, when we tell them that they are the problem, we are invoking what's known in psychology as the golem effect. The less you expect of people, the poorer they will perform. This is the opposite of the Pygmalion effect, which is the more you expect of people, the more positively you speak to them, the better they will perform. So when we tell people they are the problem, we are actually alienating them. We are making them less likely to engage with cybersecurity, less likely to ask us questions, less likely to report incidents, less likely to ask for help, less likely to practice secure behaviours. So ultimately, we're shooting ourselves in the foot and then we're blaming them for it. And number 5. When we call people the weakest link in cybersecurity, we are putting way too much burden on them. In the cybersecurity industry, we have focused so much more on technology than on people. When I started working on the human side of cybersecurity over 10 years ago, I had to explain to peers in this field what that actually meant. And we still focus way more on tech than on people. So what did we expect to happen? Because of our greater focus on technology, I would argue we have left people more vulnerable. And we have also created, and this is not just in cybersecurity, but in terms of tech in general, we have created technology that is not people-centric, that is not necessarily easy to use. And sometimes there are different solutions in place that can cause a lot of friction for people and can be very difficult for them to engage with. In cybersecurity, we can give conflicting advice and we can make it difficult for people to actually engage and understand with what we're asking of them. Likewise, in organizations, we can demand too much of people without necessarily giving them the tools for them to actually practice secure behaviors. For example, a lot of organizations will force rotations of passwords, so make people have complex passwords that they regularly change, even though password rotation is not best practice, and then maybe not even provide people with a password manager. So what do we expect to happen there? In that situation, how can we point the finger at people when they can't do it? We need to enable and empower people with cybersecurity. We need to provide them with the tools and the technology that supports them. We need to raise awareness, influence secure behaviors, and build security cultures that are positive and proactive and are people-centric. We need ultimately to root our approach to cybersecurity in empathy and compassion, which does not involve calling people the weakest link.